He's among our favorites here on the show. Has a heritage restaurant there in Fort Lauderdale. It's red hot. It's smoking hot. Reno Sorbonne joins us here on the show, our hockey analyst. What is it that has these franchises turning on Gerard Gallant, no matter what level of success he has? Now we're no longer coaching, but I mean, it was 3 times he was doing well with the Panthers. They threw him off the team bus in a snow dip in Saskatchewan. He was doing great with the Vegas Golden Knights, and they sent him out to the bunny ranch there and said, "Hey, take one up the ass, Gerard. You're out of here." Doing well with the Rangers, and they wouldn't even sell him a knish on the street corner after a couple of years of what looked like pretty successful hockey. But what is it about that guy? Do you know anything on Gerard Gallant?
He was another one. You know, it's funny. First off, look, as a Panther fan, that shit that that happened with him, that he got thrown off the plane or bus, that was the worst thing ever. If I were him, I would have waited for the whole front office to be like in the building, and I would have lit it on fire. Because that's bullshit. Right?
They had Yager throwing a duffel bag out the window as they left him literally like in a snowdrift somewhere.
Yeah, like an orphan. It was fucking terrible, man. It was absolutely.
They gave him cab fare.
You know, I'm the first guy, man. If I got a problem with you, I'll pack your shit for you, and I'll throw it out the bus myself. As I make the whole team just like defecate in it.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
What happened, Lubie? The dog ate your homework?
I need my fucking remote.
Oh, geez, Lubie. All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. Good to be with you here. Got started a little bit late. Lubie with a bit of an emergency there. Is what's the dog's name again?
Wolf.
And you won't be watching TV for a while? I mean, do you have to call the cable guy now? They'll give you a window between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. where they might be able to get over there. But then they usually call about 5:59 and say, well, it's going to be about another 2 hours if we can make it at all. And you're like, oh, really? I waited around here all fucking day. The sunglasses are for a reason. These aren't good enough, are they, Lubie?
No.
Anyway, the dog gave you a remote, and so we got on here a little bit late. I hope you didn't smack him around or anything.
No, I don't yell at him.
Okay. Does he know what he did? I mean, does he have any idea?
He has no idea.
Yeah.
It's fine. It is what it is.
That's one good thing. My dogs don't destroy stuff. They never really did. Even when Skippy was a maniac, he doesn't destroy things.
Cardboard and remotes. He's good with everything else, but for some reason he eats the shit out of remotes. He fucking nuts.
He has a little bit of a weird habit, though, Skippy. He's up there in years. I want to speculate this dog might be 15 or 16 years old, which is pretty amazing because he gets around. We have essentially a 3-story home here, townhome, Lauderdale by the sea, and there are a lot of stairs to navigate. Skippy occasionally will come down and pee on one of the corners of the kitchen. All right.
Oh, jeez.
All right. So, and you know what's great now about being almost 73, Louie, is when Mustang comes down and says, "Did Skippy pee on the wall?" I can say, "No, I did it," and it's believable. It's like when you pass gas and you beat the dog, I mean, oh, geez, I can't believe this dog. What the hell are you doing? Anyway, good to be with you guys. The glasses, today's the day, right? Solar eclipse, complete eclipse, total eclipse. It happens once every so often. It's not going to happen again for 20 years. Supposedly here in South Florida, sometime between 1:30 in the afternoon, 1:45 in that area, and 3:45, maybe even 4:30, you are going to be able to see this at least in part. I don't know that we're going to see the total eclipse here because you have to be at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to see that, right? Are there 2 places in the world you can see it? Somewhere in Colorado, and if you're at the Indy 500, what's the story on that? Do we know?
I don't know. I know that we were supposed to get special glasses. I did not get these glasses.
Where do you get them, though? Where the fuck do you get them? I mean, can you go into a Walgreens and say, hey, I need eclipse glasses?
Probably not, no.
No?
I think so. No.
So where do you pick up a pair now in case you just happen to look up at the sun? What if you knew nothing about the fucking eclipse?
Don't look
and
up.
I was out on my walk of life, and I feigned like I wasn't staring at the girl, that was coming my direction. So as she passes, you look up at the sun as if you were trying to figure out, am I going to schwitz here? What happens? Is it true? I mean, we discussed this with my mother. My my dear beloved mother, may she rest in peace. But that was all bullshit, Mom, about masturbation and blindness. You would have to
Yes.
say, and I don't even know why somebody would try to proliferate or persist in trying to convince you that if you whacked off too much as a kid, which I think is a perfectly healthy exercise, I would never
Yes.
discourage anybody from from jerking off. I mean,
Of
why
course.
would you? I mean, certain circumstances, yeah, guys at the track, he's at the windows, he's jerking off in front. No,
No, no.
some guys at a traffic light. You're thinking, nah, what is he on his text? Texting on his cell phone? Nah, guy's sitting there jerking off. I mean, it happens in South Florida,
That's
doesn't it? I would imagine it happens. What does it happen in the Midwest?
probably
Guys
not.
jerking off at traffic lights. But clearly, she was wrong about the idea and the notion. I don't know what the attachment would be. Why excreting too much semen would cause you to lose your vision, Lubie? What do you think?
I don't know. I've never. Saw it in TV shows and movies. No one ever said that to me growing up, and
No,
I,
okay.
I don't see what the connection is on any level.
There is no connection. It's insane to even imply that. I mean, I would just look at my mother while I was jerking off and say, "Ma, what are you kidding me? I could see you fine."
Jeez.
It wasn't hard to get caught when you were doing it as frequently as I was. And as I said, if the internet was around when I was a kid, I would have masturbated myself to death. But we're not talking about masturbation here in the show. That's not the direction that we wanted to go in with all the fabulous stuff that's going on. But I did want to try to figure out where can I get a pair of these things like by this afternoon, Louis,
You
in my
can't.
limited travels. Now, I'm going to be walking up towards Atlantic Boulevard on the Walk of Life. There is a Walgreens there. Would you be able to go into a Walgreens? Well, that's almost impossible, too, to A, find somebody that you could ask where the sunglasses
Exactly.
might be or these eclipse glasses might be, and B, the odds of them actually finding it. You ever notice that at a Walgreens, like nobody comes out from behind the counter because they're all scared to death of the customers? No, it's true. Like if you go by the pharmacy department and you ask, "Hey, where's Imodium or something? Some common over the counter drug," and they just go over there. They never they never come out. They don't want to see anybody. So where do you get a pair now? Online? It's too late for
They
that,
had to do
Lou.
it online. Yeah, I don't think you can. I don't think you can go in.
Publix doesn't have them. I mean,
I
local
don't think so.
supermarket. All right.
I don't think so. I don't know. We're fucked.
Okay. All right. We have a couple of things we want to address here today from the sporting world. The whole thing, the infatuation of the universe with Caitlin Clark, it ended up not being a championship, but nonetheless, everybody's paying homage to this woman and saying that she did a lot to spark interest in the game. You would have to say all of that is fair. And no matter what kind of a cynic you are about women's sports, sorry, Jim Sarney, it did. It brought a lot of attention and a lot of luster to something that otherwise would have received little attention, including this bogus foul call at the end of the UConn game when you knew they were under strict instructions. Make sure she makes the final, whatever you have to do. Now we speculated facetiously on Friday that they would slap Gino with a couple of technicals if the game was close at the end. And you would have to say that scenario pretty closely played out. I mean, as ridiculous as a concept as it seemed to be when I, said this was a possibility, they call a moving screen. You rarely see that. I mean, you'll see a lot of defensive atrocities ignored at the end of games.
Yep.
Where a guy, I saw one the other night where Therese Maxey, Philadelphia, just gets hammered on his way to the basket. Nick Nurse was like Nurse Ratched after this. He couldn't believe it because on the previous possession, they had a similar thing happen where it looked like a guy got fouled. No call, and they lost the ball out of bounds, Philadelphia. They ended up losing the game by a couple of points. And Maxey's driving to the basket. He gets hammered. The officials later in that 2-minute review thing admitted, oh, well, we blew that call. So, I mean, and yet, I don't know. I mean, fans tend to accept that a lot more where they ignore some kind of defensive foul. But I mean, where do you ever see them call, but not on the person that has the ball who bowls somebody over on their way to the basket? When do you ever see that moving screen called at the end of the game where the game's up in the air, and especially a game of that magnitude? You'll almost, I would imagine that might have been a unique call, no?
I've never seen it called. That's the only reason why I almost got sucked into that stupid debate because I don't really care about any of it. But I've never seen it called. When it gets to unless maybe if they like shoved a person or the defender ran over a person, but usually
Nobody fell down. Yeah, I mean,
she was I guess she had just set, so and then her arm was in a weird position. But with under 10 seconds, they're not calling that. I put it this way in the men's, they were showing like people were grabbing clips of moving screens left and right. And they
Yes.
weren't calling it like when did they call it in the last 3? Like, come on. Like, and the
You
woman
rarely see an offensive foul call on that spot.
she ran
Rarely.
through it. Like that was the whole reason it was called, because she ran through it and flopped. So it was like, so she clearly was able to get by the fucking screen. Like I've never seen that
She
called.
barely got bumped, that girl. Marshall was her name. The girl got fouled in that spot. All right, let's bring in the professor here, because we have the championship game tonight. And I don't know that anybody didn't see this coming for all of the bracket busting that was done early in the tournament. You have the 2 top teams in the country, 1 and 2.
No. Wait. 2 of the 3 top teams.
Yeah. What was Houston number 2 or something?
No. You got these 2, and you have Iowa girls basketball.
What did you make of all that before we get into the men's game here? Let's recap this whole women's
I
thing.
agree with you 100% on the Friday game.
Yeah.
That call was an atrocity. And then double sort of reflected. You could tell the refs very much had an interest in keeping eyes on the game, at least through the first half, as in the middle of the first quarter yesterday. Caitlin Clark literally puts both hands on the girl's shoulder, pushes her into the first row.
Yes.
Then catches the ball, shoot, and knocks down a 3. Absolutely no call. Again, stars get calls. Famously, the last shot of Michael Jordan's career, he clearly pushed Brian Russell. But very rarely do you see a player get to go like full offensive tackle. Just put both hands on the shoulders and just here, like a character in this Roadhouse movie that just came out, I am just going to push you through a wall.
There you go.
What did I think? I thought clearly South Carolina was a much better team overall.
Yeah.
Which, again, credit to them. Caitlin Clark did a great job in the first quarter of the game. I thought she kind of got gassed. To me, that's what it looked like in the second quarter. I thought that was particularly illustrated with that turnover at the end of the first half, which was another one of those. You never really see someone dribbling out the clock and get the ball stolen and go for a layup. That's a very unusual play. Yes. I thought that indicated that she finally got fatigued after playing, 40 minutes a game for the entire tournament, probably most of the season. She's a great athlete who has a very interesting and I would say somewhat overstated reaction at this point. Again, the debate yesterday that they're having, now people are mad at these UConn players, Sue Bird, or former UConn players, Stewart and Bird and Taurasi, for saying they're planning on giving her a tough time in the pros. Well, number one, again, a new generation. Professional athletes who are talking shit about a new generation. Well, we've never seen that before.
Yeah, exactly.
Michael Jordan didn't just make a 30-hour movie to tell people how much LeBron sucks compared to him. It's not like, every time someone comes around, Michael Jordan has spent the last 30 years talking shit about them. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he does, and everybody loves him for it. The point being, male athletes do this all the time, but when female athletes do it about Caitlin Clark, like everybody flips out. Everybody's like, well, why can't they be more supportive? Well, that's not how athletes work. They don't do that kind of thing. And the altering of this GOAT conversation that people want to do now. Well, you don't have to win a title to be the GOAT.
Yes, you do.
Okay. But then if we're saying that, and I say this as a Dan Marino fan who, spent a lot of my teenage years being on the wrong side of this debate.
Arguing the shit
in terms of Marino versus Montana. If we're saying now that that's the case, she's the first athlete in history, or in team sports anyway, that we're saying about. I mean, it has always been a case in the team sports, even in the case of some, kind of stupid team sports with baseball, because really you could easily be the best player in the world and not win a World Series because so many other pieces are dependent on it. But still, we have made that a requirement in all team sports. But for her, not so much. Again, that's okay, but I understand you're literally changing the rules of this conversation to suit her.
This is more common, though, Professor. I don't know if this headline is visible there on the screen, but of course, first thing I turn to is no title needed for GOAT status. Steve Serby, esteemed columnist for the New York Post. No
She's not the
title needed.
greatest ever.
Gary, I mean, again, there's a lot of people who feel that way. I think some of it is that her game is just so aesthetically friendly.
Yeah.
And I will say honestly, that applies on both sides. I think when you talk to people who are NBA fans, for example, I think Steph Curry, for who she's very very much an analog for, is probably in terms of historical placement a little overrated by modern fans because his game is so viewer friendly, fan friendly, entertaining. Again, so maybe that's a natural part of it. I don't honestly know enough about women's. I would, and I'm old enough to remember the name Cheryl Miller, and I probably saw Cheryl Miller play like once. But could I honestly tell you she's better than Cheryl Miller? I can't. I can't compare their games. I haven't paid enough attention, even to a lot of these UConn women or the Tennessee women, to know who's better. But I'm just saying, if we're saying that now, it's changed the frame of the debate, which seems a little bit much. As I told Lubie yesterday, I've actually been wrong. I'll come on air and admit I'm wrong. I've compared her to Trae Young a number of times, and that was a bad comparison. She scores a ton of points. She gets a ton of assists, so you can't criticize that part of her game. She is a frequently spectacular passer, although the last 3 games that I did watch, LSU, UConn, and now South Carolina, she also did make a lot of turnovers, trying too much.
She throws a couple lazy passes here and there, but her ability to push the ball up the court, that pass that she makes in the transition game, when she's got somebody out in front and she's triggering a break, I mean, she throws the ball on a dime there. Great passer in that spot.
Again, she gets a lot of assists, and she makes the occasional spectacular assist. A fair amount of her points are going to are due to, let's just say, friendly officiating or a beneficial whistle. She definitely gets that superstar whistle, and then she attempts to save energy and not play any defense, like 95 to 97% of the time. She is not girl Trae Young. She's girl James Harden is who she is.
Possibly.
Again, James Harden's a first ballot Hall of Fame player, but I think most Caitlin Clark fans will probably be more insulted by that comparison than they will Trae Young. So, take it or leave it.
The professor, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we have the championship game tonight.
We do, and we got a very
played out pretty much as people thought. I mean, you gave Alabama a shot there, and they were in with a shot first half. As was surprisingly NC State in their game against Purdue. First half, relatively close. Both games similar, parallel in the sense that the better team ended up dominating the second half, and they both covered the big spreads.
And they both did it really in their own style. Purdue did it playing half court at a time. They don't speed up. They had a really super uncharacteristic amount of turnovers in the first half, and that kept NC State largely in it. And then came out in the second half a lot more efficient. And NC State, by the way, did a pretty good job against Edie. They didn't have anybody tall enough, but Burns and Middlebrooks did a pretty good job of consistently making Edie catch the ball further away than he prefers to. So
they did a decent job of swiping at it in the first half too. I mean, he would put it on the floor, and you saw a lot of balls being poked away from Edie.
Again, part of that
kept him in the game.
Part of that is where the initial catch was, which was closer to the 10 or 12 foot range than the 5 or 6 foot range that he's used to catching the ball in. That made him bring the ball down and gave NC State the opportunity to swipe at it. UConn used those big spurts they like to use to pull away. Was what, a 4 or 6 point game with about 4 or 5 minutes left, and then UConn finished on one of their spurts to make that final margin a little bit worse than I thought the game overall was. And now we have the final, and I think what we've got is, because UConn is so hugely public and with good reason, have covered 6 in a row. I believe it's 14 of the last 16, and then obviously both of the last 2 tournaments crush people like a grape.
Yeah.
But I think what you have here is a matchup of, yes, UConn's the best team. Danny Hurley and his Proud Boys have come out and done an excellent job of establishing their will, and including Danny Hurley once again bullying the shit out of the referees. An important sequence early in the second half where Klingon gets called for an over-the-back foul. He chucks the ball off the backboard, and Danny Hurley comes out to the middle of the court to scream at the refs about how much he disliked the call. And for some reason, not a technical foul on either one of them, even though it was very early. Just got a warning to go back in the box when they've been calling that tech on coaches all tournament long. Hurley seems completely immune to it. I can only assume, again, it's because when he goes to talk to the referees, he tells them, we need some calls here, or I'm going to have to give out your home address at my next Proud Boys meeting. And now, honestly, we're going to have the interesting thing, because one of the side stories Hurley's going to have to deal with is he going to take the Kentucky job? It's no secret he's about to get an 8-figure offer to leave UConn. I don't think he's going anywhere, but I do think that game, if you will remember, Defo, that Syracuse-Kansas game in the 2003 national championship, where the story became, is Roy Williams leaving Kansas? Is this Roy Williams' last game for UNC? Leading famously to Roy Williams cursing his head off at Bonnie Bernstein immediately after the game, as he told her, "I don't give a shit about the University of North Carolina," and then took the job 3 days later.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's the profession.
So it'll be interesting to see how Hurley deals with
that's
that.
an interesting possibility. I mean, if you would just, even if they lose tonight, I mean, you win a championship, you're right there knocking on the door in another year, subsequent season. And did they not, didn't they lose all of their starters or something from last year? Was that
UConn?
UConn, they bring back a similar team?
This year, no, they return. I think it's only one starter. I believe Newton's the only starter who's returning. They have a couple of transfers, and then Klingon, obviously, the big man who's been so impactful, really stepped up his role. He only played about 8 minutes a game last year, although he did play a lot more in the tournament last year as he was starting to mature. Anyway,
he's been impressive, but. I mean, if you were in that spot and you saw that you could win championships there at Connecticut, which has a rabid fan base, maybe far smaller, obviously, than Kentucky's, and certainly not as recognizable nationally or internationally, but would you not be inclined to stay there, or is the money going to be the incentive?
Again, there's bigger money at Kentucky, and arguably in an era where it is the most important thing, there is going to be more NIL money to play with at Kentucky than UConn. So again, I personally think I don't think Hurley's going anywhere, but I do think he's going to get a lot of questions about leaving and about the University of Kentucky, because we see this every year with football. Kentucky is going to make an offer of a giant pile of money. So we'll see what happens. I honestly, right at the moment, the 2 names I keep hearing are, number 1, Hurley, and number 2, bringing Billy Donovan back from the NBA. I don't necessarily think either one of those are going to take the job, and I don't know where Kentucky goes from there at that point, because pretty much every big name other than those 2 comes with some drawbacks, be it age, be it a controversial history. So we'll see. This domino effect is going to be really interesting in the world of college basketball over the next couple of weeks. But let's get to tonight's game.
Yeah, let's get to tonight's game. Yeah, absolutely.
UConn 6.5. I personally think that number's anywhere from 3 to maybe upwards of 4.5 over the true number. I think this game is the true number on this game is more like UConn -2, UConn -3, somewhere in that area. 2 keys in this game. Number 1, how well can Donovan Klingon defend Edey without getting in foul trouble?
Yep.
Number 2, how much can he defend Edey as a single without getting in foul trouble? Because where Purdue feasts offensively is when you double on Edey and Edey's ability to find wide open 3-point shooters, as we've seen with Purdue throughout the course of this tournament. Tennessee did not double Edie, and they really did a good job against Purdue's three-point shooters because of it. NC State did not double Edie a lot in the first half, and they held down Purdue's three-point shooters. If Clingan can do that, it will significantly impact the game. I personally, looking at Clingan just physically, he's long enough, he's springy enough to do it. I don't think he's heavy and strong enough to push Edie away from the basket. And that's where Edie really feasts, as we saw in both ways. Number one, against the Tennessee game where he could make the deep catch. And then the other day, Saturday, where Burns kept pushing him out and forced him to catch more in like that 10 to 12-foot range. Looking at Clingan, I don't think he's wide enough. I don't think he's strong enough from keeping that deep catch. I think if they try it, what's going to happen is the same thing as Tennessee is going to get called for a lot of fouls early in the catch before Edie gets into his shooting motion, and that's going to be trouble for UConn because the next kid's big, but he's very, very skinny. He only goes about 225. He'd be giving up 80 pounds.
Wow.
To Edie. So that's going to be interesting point number one. And interesting point number two, what Purdue does to you defensively. Purdue very subtly plays great defense. The whole theme of their defense, that drop almost like a one-man zone they play with Edie, accomplishes two things. It allows Edie to impact things at the rim without being in foul trouble. He is just so long. He changes the angles for shooters as they get within 5 feet. And he can do it while still maintaining, a full step length of body distance to avoid those fouls. And then they run the other team's guards off the 3-point line. That means the spot, and the announcers pointed out it several times Saturday. Raph did a good job of pointing it out. What Purdue wants you to do is shoot mid-range jumpers. And the fact is, in modern basketball, there's just very few players who are conditioned to do that. But UConn has one, and I think Cam Spencer will be the transfer from Rutgers will be the key player for UConn offensively. He is very comfortable in that 15 to 17-foot range. If he can make those shots consistently, excuse me, it bodes very well for UConn. If he cannot, I think in particular this offense they've gotten from Clingan throughout the course of the tournament, that will not be there tonight. Edie is too long, and Clingan's offensive game is too limited. At this point, it's basically dunks and layups. He does not really have a go-to post move at this point in his career. He'll probably develop one. He's only a sophomore, and he's super long at 7'2" with long arms himself. And I think all this spells some trouble for UConn tonight. I think UConn's a better team, but I think Purdue is uniquely suited to play well with them. And then you look at it, Purdue plays up and down to its level of competition. It has been very good against elite competition this year. They went out, they won the Hawaii tournament. That has always been a good sign for NCAA tournament success. UConn themselves, the Kemba Walker year, the one thing that pointed to them having some success was they won that Hawaii tournament. Purdue did it this year. I like Purdue. I like them with the points. I think they have a much better. I'm not saying they're going to win the game, but money lines plus 225. I think they got much better chance than 2.5 to 1 to win this game. I think it's very close. I think the line's overinflated because of the public's love of UConn. I'm not saying that's not without justification. UConn has performed up to that love, but I think they have a unique matchup that does not portend to their benefit tonight. So Purdue, I look for the 3-point kids to have a good night because I think UConn will have to double on Edie eventually. I don't know that Edie's going to go for 40 and 20. I don't think he'll put up those kind of numbers, but I would look for a very effective 25 and 10 to 12 and drawing a lot of fouls on Clingan.
All right, taking the points with Purdue. The professor, best of luck with your wager tonight. And as always, a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much for being with us.
You guys have a great one.
All right, the professor, ladies and gentlemen. The hits don't stop coming. They just don't quit here. As look at this gentleman, one of the greats. And I would imagine young Sasha Skolnick is running around in a Caitlin Clark jersey right now because this woman has been such an inspiration. We welcome to the show the great from 5 Reasons Sports Network and, of course, longtime sports writer here in South Florida and around the country. had a zillion great jobs, and now has created his own platform, which is just kicking butt. We welcome Ethan Scoop Skolnick to the show. Ethan, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm trying to figure out everything that happened last night. I guess Curb Your Enthusiasm is over, right?
Yep.
Cal is going to ending, by the way. Cal is going to Arkansas.
Right.
Which I did not expect that. J. Cole is apologizing. I don't know if Defo, if you're familiar with that beef. I could educate you on that.
Oh, yeah, please do.
And the Heat have blown their opportunity to do
Wow.
anything in the playoffs.
That was wild yesterday.
So that's where we're at right now.
Interesting, many different things. I think, the Calipari, it's amazing how, was that not a well-kept secret that Musselman went to USC? He was coaching Arkansas, and so there's an opening there. Did you hear any speculation along the lines of, hey, who's getting that job, Calipari?
No, but you did hear a lot of speculation about frustration in Kentucky with Calipari. There's only so long that model can work in college basketball at this point. Look, first, some credit on this. Obviously, he knows how to develop players in 1 year because the Kentucky guards have basically taken over the NBA. It's not just Booker or Fox now it's Emmanuel Quickley's going nuts, and obviously Maxey had 54 last night. Tyler Hero had 21. But there are a lot of Kentucky guards have completely taken over the league, but he's not winning anything. And part of it is I don't think he's an elite game coach. I don't think he ever has been, but it's also that you just, when guys are gone in 1 year, there's just no time to gel. And we're seeing that with Connecticut right now, that, a little bit more seasoning helps. And so I think that honestly, he needed a parachute out before things got really ugly. And this is a pretty good parachute. You don't see a lot of guys go inside their conference like this, but
yes.
If money speaks, and again, I think that I think he was close to the end of Kentucky. Regardless, he might have gotten blown out if they lost in the first round or second round again next year. So, probably the wise move to get out. And again, applying it to the Heat. Maybe they should have taken a couple more of those Kentucky guards.
Certainly Devin Booker over Justice Winslow. That would have still as a large mistake.
And Tyrese Maxey over Precious Achua,
Yes.
probably.
Oh,
Also.
yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Such ugliness. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Calipari, Lexington, having been there many times, not so much attracted to the prospect of attending a Kentucky basketball game, but of course, Keeneland Racecourse does have a measure of sophistication. Where is Calipari going to buy clothing in Arkansas? That would be the question, because this guy's always razor sharp. Now, the professor was speculating, and I guess this is a natural, and he said it will be a topic tonight. I don't know if Scoop Skolnick or the crew from 5 Reasons will be popping up to the pregame press conference, if there is one, and asking Danny Hurley, when is he getting the Kentucky job?
Well,
is that going to be the case?
Well, why would this is what I don't understand. When guys have elite, UConn is an elite job. This is not right. This is not. First thing, it's been an elite job for a long time. It's been an elite job since Ray Allen and others there.
Jimmy
kind
Calhoun
of made it an elite job, right? Jilly Calhoun, and then you look at obviously Kemba Walker and what others have done there. If you can win at the highest level at a place and they're happy with you, why go? I understand, we talk about Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke. There are certain programs that kind of get elevated above the rest, but UConn has done more winning than Kentucky over the past decade. And so so to go to Kentucky to be the guy to lift it back up, I don't know. I would stay where UConn, he literally has Danny Hurley has that entire corridor in the Northeast. He'll get anybody he wants. There's no competition. Who's he competing with up there? The old Big East, the old Big East is dead. There's no. I know Pitino's at St. John's, but there's Georgetown is dead. Those programs.
Rick's already on the phone with several of Hurley's recruits saying that he's gone to Kentucky.
He's gone, yeah.
Absolutely.
Unless you own a racehorse, this is no place to be. He's telling people.
It's weird. I've actually my Rick Pitino experience is actually, I think I was at couple of things you were at. He was some event in Boca. I just remember being at urinals next to Rick Pitino a lot. I'm not really sure
He's
why
a
that is.
down to earth guy. When you meet him in
Yeah.
person, very down to earth guy. I'm a big
Yes.
Pitino fan. I mean, I know there have been some indiscretions here that you
Eh,
would find somewhat
we
unfathomable.
all have them.
Yeah.
maybe not all that one, but
Guilty,
yeah,
man.
that's-
Guilty, yeah, for sure.
yeah, is what it is.
All right, so I watched a little Heat game yesterday, and I have no idea what to make of the Miami Heat, Ethan, as you sort of discussed. Lubie, has had his magic wand theory in the past. I'm not sure I'm seeing the magic wand being waved by Spoelstra at the end of the year, and all of a sudden everything's going to come together.
No.
People have a mixed reaction. I see people detracting Rozier. He seems to be a guy that's been one steadying influence for the team. Jimmy Butler, you were talking about the indifference, which kills all relationships. We know that, but it seemed like he was detached from some games, and then in other games he would look like the kind of guy that you thought is going to be the catalyst to some kind of achievement in the postseason. But where do you stand with them? Yesterday they're down 22 points in the first half. Very lackadaisical effort on the defensive end. Didn't score. I mean, what they have? 40 some odd points. And then they tightened the game up, and it looked like they were sort of in there with a shot to win it. But Indiana made their free throws at the end of the ball game and clinched it that way. And now they're behind Indiana because that achieved the tiebreaker for Indiana over the Heat if they end up in a dead heat.
Well, they're not catching Indiana. I don't. I mean, yesterday they could.
How many games are left? Like 4?
Yeah, they've
5?
got 4. They're in Atlanta tomorrow night. They've got Dallas at home, second night of a back-to-back. That could be ugly in a wrong way. And then they play Toronto for 2. The Raptors just lost 15 in a row before winning a couple, but they don't really want to keep winning because if their pick is in the top 6, if they're a bottom 6 team, they keep the pick this year. Otherwise, they got to give it away as part of an earlier trade. So the Raptors, I don't think, will be coming in with a whole bunch of energy in those last 2 games of the season. So you figure, unless Miami completely bleeps the bed, that they should win those 2. But I don't trust them to win the Dallas game at home. I'll just, look, the Eastern Conference is not good. 8 of the top 10 teams in net rating are in the West. You look at Boston. It's Boston and it's everybody else. Everybody else has problems. I mean, Milwaukee has been a nightmare since Doc took over.
Yep.
They're not defending anybody. Some of their players, their role players, have gotten old quickly. Cleveland has really been struggling. They blew a huge lead yesterday. Donovan Mitchell is not healthy right now. The Knicks, of course, are playing without Randall. They had a big win yesterday. Orlando has been tremendously consistent. I give them great credit, but they're very young, and I don't know how that's going to translate in the playoffs. It didn't for Cleveland last year. So this was an opportunity for Miami. And, look, now I see them probably being the 8. Philadelphia, almost lost yesterday. Miami kind of needed that. That was as bad a result for Miami as losing to the Pacers was. You needed them to lose in San Antonio without Embiid, and the Spurs were up double digits with 4 minutes left, but ultimately Philadelphia won in double overtime. So I think this is just where we're headed. They are going to take the hardest possible path again. If they are the 8th seed and they have to go to, say, Philadelphia for a play-in game, I don't trust them to win that game.
Wow.
And then you're counting on them just beating Chicago or Atlanta at home. Very similar circumstance to last year. If you remember, they lost the first game and then had to beat Chicago. They were down with 3 minutes left in that game, and Strus saved them. He's no longer there. And then what's your reward then? You're the 8th seed and you play Boston in the first round. I mean, I hate to say it, but to a certain degree, they deserve this fate. You can't screw around as much as they screwed around, and we can talk about injuries and all that, and a lot of that is reasonable, but this team has not played well when fully healthy this year either, or close to fully healthy. And yesterday you mentioned Rozier. Look, he probably shouldn't have played. I guess he woke up with a stiff neck. He wasn't good. Duncan Robinson has been trying to play through a back injury and looks awful the last 5 games. Nothing like he's looked earlier this season, to the point that I actually think they should shut him down. And then you've just got no choice at this stage but to put Tyler back in the starting lineup and roll with it, which was not the direction that I thought that they should go. But if Duncan's not right, he's not right. So I guess to answer your question here, I don't look, they don't have a 1A star anymore. I think that's the realization that Heat fans need to come to. Jimmy Butler's a very good player still, but he's not a carry you over the finish line type player like he's been during most of his Heat tenure. And I don't think it's just effort. Some of it is him kind of conserving himself, but some of it is he has to pump fake 12 times to get a shot off these days. And also the officials are not calling anything anymore. Like that's the thing. Like, since the break, whatever it is, they decided as a league that they were not going to go with the foul baiting. Now, Jimmy's not really a foul baiter, but he does rely on free throws to get him going. And he had a bunch last night, but he probably could have had about 10 more. He's not going to get them right now consistently. And I saw the frustration seep in with him last night in a way that I typically haven't, where he did the palms up thing that LeBron does. That's not Jimmy. So I think that all of this stuff has kind of come together, and I think the end game is if they get eliminated in the first round, if they get through the play-in, is that I think you're going to see you're going to finally see the rebuild that I think Heat fans have been calling for.
Well, and look, Defo always makes fun of me because I love the offseason more than I love the season, because with the Heat, there used to be, until the last 4 years, always something brewing. And then we've seen the last 4 years with the opposite, where all you did was hear stuff about the Heat and then nothing happened. Where in the past, we always joked with the Shaq move, with like all these were moves you never thought would happen. And then they did the move. The last 4 years, they were rumored to get every star and then get any of them. To me, it's, and look, and I was the one slamming them last year, and then they found their way to make this magical run. So yes, can you totally count them out? I guess not. Suppose good enough coach, fine. But it does feel different. It just feels like they were sort of screwing around, but knew what they had last year. And this year, they don't know what the hell's going on. And Heroes actually come back and played okay, so I can't even blame Heroes so much. It's just, it feels like we've talked about all year, they have a better team, but they don't play like it.
Right.
And I just don't see. And what's funny is, you're not wrong, the middle of the East is not great. But the problem is the Sixers are probably that other team that's top 3 or 4 in the conference. And you got a break because they didn't have Embiid. Well, now they do. And he's come back and looked pretty good. So you'd have to play him in like a freaking play-in. Like, playing. Like,
to me, the Sixers are the second best team in the East right now. So I don't, the record shows that when Embiid and Maxey are healthy together, they haven't lost much. Similar to when Anunoby's played for the Knicks, actually, they've been very good. But Miami is just like, they get pieces back, and it looks like they've never played together before. By the way, Andrew, thank you for the comment about my daughter. Appreciate it. But that
was brilliant, by the way, Scoop. Andy was on the chat line talking about your daughter's singing performance. Where did these pipes come from?
I not me.
Wow.
I actually, from no one, to be honest. I don't know. It's more so. Every minute is a performance. So
a natural stage
this
presence
apartment,
too.
In this apartment. Well, it's better when it happens there when it's 6:15 in the morning on a Saturday and she's coming into my room to wake me up with it. But yes,
Dad, are we going somewhere today?
Well, pretty much. Yeah, Daddy doesn't get to sleep. But yeah, it's I just think it's frustrating to see this team do what they did in that game, where Indiana is not at the same stage of their build that Miami is with theirs. Okay, this is a Halliburton build. He didn't even do anything in the game, and you're getting torn up by T.J. McConnell. And I mean, T.J. McConnell was 11 of 12 the last time they played them, and this game he started 12 of 13. Oh. He's a guard. He's a guard.
Bill Walton. Yeah.
23 of 25. Okay, and it was literally all they were doing was he was getting into the middle of the zone or on cuts, and nobody was doing anything with him. And we had Heat fans, and we do playback every night, which is we watch the game through a stream, and we kind of do the play-by-play on it. And we just kept saying, like, people were like, well, they've got to do something about TJ McConnell. I'm sorry. Okay. If you are at a point in the season, we're in game 78 or whatever.
Yes.
Where you have to game plan for TJ McConnell in a game that you need to win. Like, everybody's like, he's got to throw DeLon Wright out there. He's got to put Highsmith on him more. Okay, I understand about making some adjustments, but like, TJ McConnell's one of those, you let him beat you. Okay, and he did. Okay, and that's crazy, honestly. And I just think there's a lack of of seriousness with this group at times that is very frustrating. Like, it's not just the Indiana game. Look at the way they came out against Philadelphia. And then they had to fight all the way back, and they took the lead. But then again, they've wasted so much energy trying to get back in front, and then we see them go through these long scoring droughts. And look, I give credit to Jovic for yesterday, because honestly, without his third quarter, that game would have completely gotten away. But it's not enough. They don't have, like I said, they don't have a 1A anymore. They don't look like they fit together very well. And they look like what the fans are saying. They're just waiting, like, okay, the playoffs are going to start, and this magic bulb is going to appear over there. Oh, okay, we're going to twist it. Okay, the lights are going to go on. I don't see it.
Yeah,
I just don't see it.
No, that was with LeBron and Wade, and that was after like game 20. That wasn't like game 79. Okay, so you said about get the rebuild that the fans want, because the fans just want the superstars. We're clamoring for a big move, and they've tried and they've failed. But even you said, yes, we all knew the Blazers weren't going to be the team to do it, but it couldn't hurt to be the team that pushes them to look bad. And the Heat just sort of said, screw it. The Mitchell thing is murmuring again. Mitchell is not extending his contract with the Cavs. It's pretty known that they're going to ship him off somewhere. You said it. This is the offseason that you expect the rebuild fans want. What does, in your mind, the rebuild fans want? What does that mean, and what does that mean for the Heat in reality?
I still think the most likely place for Mitchell is New York. Okay. But because of his ties there. I mean, look, they're going to explore it, I think. And I think they will look at trying to move, anything but Jimmy and Bam again. But I think the bigger issue here is, and sort of the elephant in the room here is, okay, what do you do with Jimmy going forward? You've got 2 years. Well, he's got a year left, and then he's got a player option for $52 million. Okay. He's not going to be a $52 million player. Okay. And not in the playoffs or in the regular season. And I know he wants an extension, and he'd like to rip up that last year and get 2 more years. I don't think they're going to give him 2 more years, honestly, at max. So this thing is going to come to a head at some point. I really think, look, I don't think that Pat is ever moving Bam. I just don't. I think that he is so ingrained in their culture. He is the culture carrier. He's 26 years old or whatever. So I don't think that's happening. But I think everything else at a certain stage is going to be on the table. The problem this offseason is I don't really see, other than Mitchell. First thing, free agency is weak, and Miami isn't a cap space team anyway. But I don't really see the disgruntled stars yet. The one name that's come up a lot is Paul George. I think he's headed for Philly. Has longstanding relationships with some people there, and I think that's probably where he ends up. He's a bit diminished anyway. I would take him on Miami. I think he still does a lot of things really well. But there's not a lot of players that are jumping out to me. I think the playoffs, the Western Conference is so competitive that I do think that a couple teams that either don't get out of the play-in or don't get out of the first round, I think you could see their stars getting itchy to go somewhere else. And I think that's where you have to look at. So, I don't know, maybe it's not a headliner star. Maybe it's somebody like a Brandon Ingram in New Orleans if they don't go very far. Maybe can you get your hands on De'Aaron Fox somehow out of Sacramento if they flame out? Could you, and look, the one name that I don't think is reasonable in any way, because I don't think he's ever leaving that place. But man, if I were Steph, I would be tired of carrying that bleep in Golden State. Because I don't see that situation getting a whole lot better, because they seem tied to dealing with Draymond's antics. So I would look at the West and say, okay, is there a team in there that, just because the West is so competitive, that is looking to reshuffle things? There's a possibility of somebody getting free there. Possibility.
Scoop Skolnick says LeBron and Steph Curry to the Heat next year. That'd be great. All right, we'll have that all
that's the other. No, Defo. That's the other name I didn't want to mention, but it's not the craziest thought.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I'm not saying it's
going to happen.
Comes here with
Bronny. Yeah.
If anybody can make Bronny into an NBA player, it's Spo. And I think Bron knows that at this stage. So who knows? It's not the craziest thing in the world. Look, they have made more concessions as an organization to Jimmy Butler than they ever made to LeBron James. So they could absolutely handle LeBron at this stage. But I don't think it's going to happen. But if you were to say to me to put my life on it not happening, I wouldn't do that.
Wow.
I wouldn't do
Skolnick. There you go. There you go. There's the story. LeBron to Miami.
It's done.
Off-season blockbuster.
Aggregate it.
Do they do that thing again where they get LeBron and say Duncan
Not
Robinson
one.
and maybe another Heat player out of bio to sit there and tell you they're going to win 7 championships?
Haywood Highsmith, Caleb Martin, and LeBron James.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Scoop, great stuff as always. I don't know. We always say it. I don't think anybody knows more about this stuff than you. So we appreciate that. With all due respect to Ira Winderman, a wonderful guy, but a lousy official at tennis. Have you ever played him in tennis?
I think that's the last thing in my life I would ever do.
Play Winderman?
I don't know. I don't trust that. I'm not sure. Like
the calls were atrocious.
Well, Ira likes to ask like the first 5 questions of every press conference. And much respect to him because again, the guys who still travel, I give much.
He's
respect
like the Helen Thomas of the Heat.
So does he insist on serving 5 straight games? Like how does that work in tennis?
It
like,
wouldn't matter. Whatever you throw at him, it's going to be out. Right? I mean, the ball could leave like what looks like a mortar shell exploded in the service box, and no, that was long. What are you talking about? And it'll fire a couple of rackets. I don't know. He might have gotten a lot better. I haven't played the guy for like 20 years, but I do remember
You're an idiot. You're an idiot.
Okay, the officiating was very suspect. Very suspect. All right, Scoop. Always a pleasure, my friend. 5 Reasons Sports Network. Scoop Skolnick. Ethan Scoop Skolnick always does a great job. And wow, do they have the Heat covered, Lubie?
Yes,
you would
sir.
have to say in blanket coverage of the Miami Heat. Incredible. So if you want more on the Miami Heat, turn to 5 Reasons, and you get all that you want. How about they review the game with like they go back over it and have their own little podcast like the Manning Cast.
And people love it. People watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, which I watched that. I didn't really pay that much attention because I didn't have the sound up very loudly. What? Huh? And I watched the Bird Tarasi broadcast on ESPN yesterday.
Oh, so was that a thing? Was that okay?
So yeah, they had any number of guests. It was it was very much like the Manning thing on the Monday Night Football, very similar. And I'm inclined for that sort of event. I thought it was interesting. Nice. I didn't hear anything particularly inflammatory because, like I said, I wasn't paying that much attention to what they were saying. But they did have Sudeikis on, Jason Sudeikis, and some other guests. They had Snoop Dogg on there. I mean, it was kind of an interesting array of talent that they brought out during the course of the telecast. All right, we have to run. Thanks so much for being with us. Take care of that dog, Louie. I mean, he didn't actually swallow any of the remote,
did he?
He's
fine. He's a husky, so he's
my God.
He can eat whatever. The remote's actually, I think all the pieces are there.
Okay, see if you can put it back together, man. I never heard you so angry in my life.
I'm not happy at all.
All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 1 o'clock today, is a command performance from somewhere.
Corvina Seafood Grill.
Oh, good. Yeah. No, you guys had a good time up there. All right. And we'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock right here with the next edition of the Defo Show. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. See you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:01.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.